Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Hello everyone, welcome to Healing Wednesdays, the Circle of 12. I'm Lee Carroll.
And I'm Monika Muranyi.
For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, Healing Wednesday is a time where every Wednesday we come together with special guests. We have Q&A, discussions, meditations, and channeling. And this is our once-a-month free program where we do that, and it's free to all of you. We appreciate all of those of you who have joined us on YouTube, and then, of course, all of our subscribers. Now, if you happen to be a subscriber, you get this particular program every single week. You get replays. There's 4 shows a month, as I say, just exactly like this one. If we have a 5-month week, that'd be great. If we have a 5-week month, there's a show on the 5th one too. So it's every Wednesday, all the time, no matter what, there's a show here. It's easy to subscribe. If you're interested, please go to cryonmasters.com. I say this every time, but this is a stream, and you're seeing a live stream. And of course, there's a chat here, both on YouTube and also in our members portal. If you have trouble with this, if there's coming and going, if we stop, if we start, if you don't know what's happening, the idea is there is always a replay, and the replays are very, very soon afterwards. For the members, there's like an hour and a half. If you're on YouTube, it takes about a day, but we'll get it up. You can always see this show. So if you're frustrated with the internet or with the streaming or any of these things, just turn it off, but please come back. It's going to be a great show today, just like it always is. All right. Monika, welcome again.
Well, I want to just add to what you mentioned, welcoming all those watching for the first time. Every Wednesday, we are coming together with this broadcast, if that's what you want to call it. But there's an energy that gets set because there is a core group that are with us the first time this ever goes out there onto the internet airwaves. And I feel it, and Lee, I'm sure you feel it as well. We have this intimate group coming together, posturing not just what we bring, but a consciousness is set. So welcome to this couch of benevolence and love and compassion. And this is a moment where all the rest of the world can just dissolve away and be in this moment.
When we planned the program, and I'll just talk personally now, we said, well, where should we put it and what time of day? And of course, everybody said, well, it ought to be on Saturday when everybody's off, or a Sunday on whatever. And my instinct was, no, I want it on Wednesday night. I want it on hump day. Let's call this in the middle of the week, the hump, to trying to get through the week. Because that is, I think, the most appropriate when people want to relax and want to just sit and all. Yeah. Of course, the replays you can see anytime. Mm-hmm. For those who join us live, especially for those who are enjoying the chat, I think that this is postured in a good place and a good time. And so many people have said, yes, that is correct. And we'd much rather do that because on Saturday, Sunday, we do the laundry and we do other things.
Yeah, and so I love our group that comes together consistently every Wednesday. And I love everyone else who feels the energy of that in all the replays. So
before we do that also, I'm just for the listeners, and people have asked me this, is how long did it take for you, Lee, used to talking to crowds and seeing actions and reactions and all that with lots and lots of people, to go to a studio where there is no one but the technicians? And how do you then, go to that place where you feel something? It took a while, but Monika, you mentioned it, because now we feel your presence there. Somehow this has been transmitted to us at this table. We really do. We enjoy what you are enjoying, and hope you feel that same couch that we're talking about of love and compassion and benevolence.
Absolutely. And so we love hearing from you, and we love hearing the questions that you submit for Lee, myself, and Kryon to answer. And that's what we want to do now. We would like to go to the first question, which is from Anna. She's in London in the UK, and this is her question. Is there any explanation that as a healer I can help others, and yet I still have my own health issues and other challenges in my life? I'm sure Anna's not alone, Lee. So,
This is, I think, one of the large, again, I say this quite often because there are a number of questions that I have heard all of my metaphysical career. And as I went forward, I think, and met more and more healers, not just healers, but those who are psychologists and psychiatrists who are not even in metaphysics, they all said the same thing, and that is, I seem to be able to help others, but not myself as much. Even though I know all the principles, even though I've been there, even though I teach courses, I even have people on my table who are being healed, and this is from the healers who I've talked to, and yet when it comes to my own body, I have trouble. So, Anna, you are asking a question I think that is so common. I don't have, the absolute minutiae or academia of an answer, except that this is something we've seen over and over. So all this says is that you are an individual person. And also, Anna, if you're a healer, you know too much. And what I mean by that is that you know the processes, you've taught the processes, if you're a healer. And so it's tough for you to apply that which is perhaps your profession or what you studied. Most of the ones that I have talked to said that I have to either go to another person or I have to then wipe out in some ways that which I expect and just sit and analyze and go from there. Dear Spirit, what is it you want me to know? And quite often they hear, go to this other person who you may or may not know, and they can help you. Isn't that odd? That you'd have a situation where a healer has trouble healing themselves. It isn't odd. It's extremely, extremely common.
Perhaps it's just a blind spot.
Yeah.
That you are so in it that you've got a blind spot and someone else can instantly help you with that.
People have said, well, Lee, what do you do when you get down? When you get, angry or depressed, I don't get angry, disappointed, or all that. What do you do? Or do you? Because you have Kryon with you all the time. It's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Is we have to stop and can I just say, there's many times when this beautiful woman next to me, my partner, has quoted Kryon when I needed to hear it. Can I just say that? And so here we are. I should have been able to glean that. Absolutely. I'm the channeler. But it didn't happen that way. So I go to a place where I'm disappointed or I wonder why this is happening or, and then Monika will come and say, well, remember in October 13th, 2016 at 4 o'clock.
I think you're exaggerating
Yes,
a bit. But the point is we're all here to help each other.
Yes.
And there may be an issue that you have, Anna, that someone out there, I know, is able to help you.
Yes.
And follow your intuition and your synchronicity to find that person and let yourself off the hook. Don't beat yourself. We tend to feel that
don't beat yourself up.
because we're so good at something, we should have that in our life 100%.
Yes.
And get rid of that guilt, get rid of that judgment, and just accept that this is a challenge, it's just temporary. And I guess, Anna, what would you, if you had a client coming to you saying, I'm a healer and I can't heal someone, what would you say to that person? What would be your advice that you would give to that person as to how they would move forward?
That's great. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So it's very common, Anna. Thank you. And that's a great question. We'll probably talk about that more, I'll bet you, at some point.
I hope that helps. So let's go to the next question. This is from Savannah. She is from Denmark. And she's asking, is it okay to use Kryon's meditation with the visualization of the bridge and the mist in our own guided meditations with groups? What a beautiful question. She's wanting to do meditation groups with Kryon's bridge and the mist.
I find it interesting that so many people they're so honoring of something they would hear that Kryon would do or a process that they would ask the question, is it okay if I do it too? Or is it okay if I do it with my groups or in other places? And let me just tell you that this whole idea of the bridge in the mist, this visualization, of course, it isn't an actual 3D visualization. It's something that Kryon gave us. It's not only is it okay to use it for anywhere with anyone, but you can change it. Anytime you have that metaphor, crossing the bridge, going from the known to the unknown, you can put it in any scenario that you wish to, that might even be more applicable to a group that would understand something else better, another metaphor of that same thing. So not only can you use that one anytime you wish, anywhere you wish, but of course your own. And we count on this, and thank you, Savannah, for asking that, because people are so concerned, I would say, in honoring of processes, especially what they hear with Kryon. And you say it's given so that everyone can use it. So please use it, or even better, perhaps you can alter it so that it's more profound for your culture or for your group.
I love that. That's beautiful. So let's go to one last question before we have the meditation and channel. And this question comes from Christopher, who is in France. And Christopher wants to know, how do we know if during the Circle of 12 we are actually on the process of healing? How do we know we're healing? And should we feel something in the location of our illness? What's the answer to that question, Lee?
Well, Christopher, I will tell you, this has been answered obtusely many times, even from the guests. It seems that the healing, let's put it in a scenario where I have something going on I don't understand, or maybe it's with my heart or my kidney or my liver or an arm or a leg or whatever, so it's localized, or I don't feel well, or I got digestion or something, or the doctor has told me something. So you have something to focus on that you feel, this is why I came, this is the healing that I have come for. So Christopher is asking, now how do I know it's working? How do I know, do I feel something in that local place? And yet, healer after healer have come here and said that the actual healing you came for is a byproduct of something else. You know where I'm going with this? What if it's more than just a localized healing that's going to happen? What if it comes with an attitude shift, a compassionate, benevolent change in your life? What if you have an aha experience that awakens you to a larger truth? In that, often the byproduct is the healing. Now that's just one answer and one segment of this answer, because there's another segment to go. Sometimes the healing you've come for does not happen instantly at all. In fact, it happens gradually, and you're only aware of it like 2 or 3 weeks into it. How long does it take to knit a bone? 6 weeks, we know. And 6 weeks seems to be when the doctors are always saying, well, wait 6 weeks and do this and that, because there's an actual healing process of the body that takes a while. So it's not miracles necessarily we're after all the time. So you may have something that is actually healing now, but you're not going to be aware of it for maybe 2 months or something, because you see the symptoms start to shrink, and you realize that every time you've sat in the Healing Wednesday 12, Circle of 12, you've had something going on, and it's starting to go in there and make sense. Your life starts to change, and you feel in the spot where you're talking about, not at that moment, but later on, the symptoms of the issues start to go away. Why do I say this? Because this is the report. This is what we're hearing. We've had people with migraine headaches. Wow, this is just, set you aside. I mean, anybody who has migraines know that it's, when you have one, you just go in the closet, because you're no good to anybody, and it's very, very painful. It's hard to live with those. And when they start diminishing is when you know this is working. So it's not like your headache went away when you sat down at the Circle of 12. It's that something started in your body that starts a healing process. But please understand, we're not here to give you solutions and have the speakers come to a place where they're going to tell you, well, do this and that for your kidney and your liver, whatever. It is a change of paradigm for your existence and your life, and the byproduct is longer life, healing. And then you get to the other things: anger, depression, fear, let's talk about fear, that starts to, people start to feel better. That starts to diminish as well. You only know that over time. So people are starting to say, okay, I didn't feel anything at the moment, but wow, something happened. I'm listening, I'm being careful, I'm feeling the love of the others around me, I've joined the portal, we're talking back and forth, and I'm realizing that even the interaction between people on the Circle of 12 are giving me healing. That's the point. That's why we're doing this. So it isn't a localized healing at all. It's more of an attitude, a whole change of life that's happening. I know I've gone too long on that one, but I just want to say this, it is a byproduct of something else.
Absolutely. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And let's use that information to move into a meditation and a channel from Kryon. So I invite you to close your eyes, place your hand on your heart, and in this moment, I invite you to feel the energy of the many thousands of souls that are tuning in, whether it's in the now or in the future, which in the future becomes their now. And so joining us are thousands of beautiful souls, and I want you to connect heart to heart with each person coming into this moment. And with our collective consciousness, let us send a wave of love and compassion to those on the planet in this moment who are going through grief. There are many who have been losing loved ones that have had their end of days on earth, and they are in a moment of grief. And while we can't take that grief away immediately, we can send love and compassion out to those individuals. And allow them to feel our support. And allow us to visualize them, perhaps not in a month or not quite a year, but allow them to be softened in their reaction. And that they can smile when they think of that loved person, knowing that we are in a circle of life and we don't truly die. We simply change energy forms. And that loved one that they have lost is now part of their soul group, guiding them, assisting them as they continue to walk on this planet. And with that connection and thought, allow your hands to relax. Take a deep breath. And we welcome the message from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Each time we come before you in this way, I hope you understand the love, the benevolence, the beauty. As we sit at your feet and give you the wisdom that is here. This planet is changing greatly. You may be aware of it. Some of you are seeing things that are fearful or appear fearful. because of the shift, of the change, not understanding that some of that change may be that which will upset the normal. And it's the normal, perhaps, that is not going to return. A normal of low consciousness that is starting to move away from humanity as you know it. This is the first of the month channel. That is to say, the first one of the month. All 4 of these channels will be available and are available for free. And so I then am free to give you a 4-piece channel, and I do it yet again. Part 1 of a subject. And this subject truly is the elephant under the table, as some of you would say. Those of you who are watching this program, who have tuned into this program because you want to watch it, have something all in common, various degrees of something in common, and that is you're starting to ask questions. And the questions you are asking is, have I missed something? Is there something perhaps bigger than I was told? Specifically, when it comes to that which is God, the creative source, spirituality, the energy on the planet, that some are saying is moving to a place it never was before, and they'd be right. The elephant under the table is that you're different. I'm going to call it consciousness shift. Some have called it awakening. I will say that it is humans' new frontier. Not just that which is awakening, but a perception shift of the planet that is gradually starting to happen. And it refers not just to spiritual things. It actually relates to the way you think. Human consciousness is starting to vibrate higher. And the first thing that takes place, dear ones, the first thing is those who start to be more aware of what they were not aware of before. Let's call it, instead of an awakening, let's call it a greater awareness. So that is the new frontier. Greater awareness, specifically about that which is spirit, about your own spirituality. And that's why you're here. It's the elephant under the table because it has changed your life. Sometimes it has made it more difficult in your life. Some of you have lost friends and family members because of it. So we're going to discuss it. The attributes, then, of this awareness shift. That's the subject. The first of these 4 is simply going to be looking around. I have given many parables, many examples, many metaphors of what some of you have experienced that actually got you in trouble. And I would say in trouble, that is to say, when you go against the norm, there are those who say, how could you? You were trained in this, you learned this, this is your staple, this is the way it works, and you have varied from that. Therefore, we're not going to be with you anymore. Perhaps that's why you're here listening to a program like this. You're among friends and good company. When I first started with my partner and started channeling on this planet, one of the first parables I gave was about a man named Woe. I told you he wasn't really a man or a woman, he was a woe-man, but we call him a man, we call him a he, because it's easy. And it had to do with a disturbance in the corner. We called it woe in the room of lesson. And the disturbance in the corner is a metaphor for him being in a room. And the room was his life. But there was a corner that always vibrated a little strangely. And those who were in the room with him said, yes, this is life. There'll always be things that you can look at or not look at. And there'll always be odd things. Don't look at it because it'll capture you. Or it's not good for you. And in this parable, woe eventually looked, and it was like a door that he cracked open, and there was light there. There was other things there he didn't understand, and it changed his life. It was benevolent. It was loving. That was the first time we gave that kind of a parable, indicating that if you want to look, you might find a greater truth than you've been told. We gave a parable which became a book, The Journey Home. And in that, there was an average man, Michael Thomas, who had a near-death experience, and he came back with instructions from an angel. The angel told him to move into his city until he came to a park and sit there and wait, and he did. And finally, he thought he saw something in the hedge, like an opening or perhaps an anomaly. And he went to the hedge and he saw that it was indeed an opening, a doorway, if you want to say that. And then he had a decision. He said, am I imagining it or not? Has somebody made this happen to me or not? Am I being tricked or not? And he tried to unsee that, and he couldn't. Every time he looked at the hedge, he saw the doorway, every single time. Eventually, dear ones, he went through that and the adventure began. And he learned about things which were bigger than he was told. But the point is this, that when you start looking and something occurs, you cannot then delete that. Your conscious, your brain captures something critical, an opening perhaps, an awareness perhaps. Some have called it even an awakenings of what is it? And you're not frightened of it because you know that what it is that you have seen or felt is okay. It's safe, and you would like to know more about it. There are so many who have called these channelings a trick, that somehow you are brainwashed and you're tricked into something, and then you're captured forever. Dear ones, what if you went from darkness to light and you like the light better? Is that a trick? I'll tell you something that you should hear and you should need to know perhaps, and that is that all of you have the ability to look. And that if you choose to look, dear ones, that's like an outstretched hand to all of us to say, look at that. He's looking, she's looking. Let's give them something to see. That's what happened to my partner. That's what happened to many of you. You saw a greater truth. You went to look further at it, and it became that which is now your life because it saved some of you. We know who's watching. It became something that has extended your life. We know who's watching. What if God is bigger than you were told? What if God is not even representative of that word itself? A word that sometimes means anger and judgment and dysfunction like the Greeks had. That creative source which made you is provable all over the world. If you don't believe in that which is God, what if you erase the whole idea of a Father in the sky, instead have a benevolent source that you are part of, that has a grander scheme than anything anyone has told you? Let me close with this until the next section. There are physicians around this planet who are very, very good at something, and that is saving lives. And they spend their time often in the operating rooms, emergency cases mostly, those who are dying from accidents mostly, trying to save their lives and bring them back because it's not time yet in our way of thinking and your way of thinking. Perhaps they come in and there's been an accident and their heart stops. And for whatever reason it is, and it can be a multitude of reasons and so many accidents, They're resuscitated then. And that physician is good at this, at saving people and bringing them back, and they've seen it over and over and over, where someone would be clinically dead for a number, perhaps, of moments or minutes or whatever. Over and over. You've seen this. You know this. And the thing that they will tell you over and over, ask them. Some of them have written books on it, is this. A person comes back from that near-death experience, and the first thing they want to know when they recover and look at the doctor is this: why did you bring me back? You see, they saw something. The door started to open and the light shone, and they felt the love and the benevolence. They felt safe and beautiful. Oh my, can you imagine such a thing? Even though the family was back there on the planet and all that, and all they wanted to do was stay. And it wasn't a trick of the mind, as some biologists will tell you. That's real. And then they come back into a planet where they have to work with consciousnesses, lows and highs and all this, and they're disappointed. So many. And then they philosophize about it, and some become authors and teachers and healers themselves, and often the near-death experience has opened them to this. They saw the truth, and they want to show it to you without you having to go through what they did. And that's why you sit and listen to them. And we've had them. So many times we, meaning that which is the channel, we've had them to give to you. We've had them present on programs like this. We've tried to show you there is more. There is an awareness starting to happen, and you can't unsee it, dear ones. And in the next section, when we come back, when we channel next week, we will continue. And the continuation will be what happens when you see the truth in all of its glory, and no one else does. I think it matches so many of those right now who are listening. Are you interested? This is you. This is about the awakening awareness process on the planet. Not just you, but so many around you. I'll be back. And so it is.
And just allow a few more minutes to bathe in those beautiful energies set by Kryon. And gently bring your awareness back into your body. Bring your awareness back into the room. And I invite you to be fully present in this moment, because Lee and I are so excited for our next guest to be joining us. Alberto Velodo is our next guest. And Alberto, are you there?
I'm here, Monika. Good to be with you and Lee.
Wonderful. Well, let's tell everyone about Alberto.
Yeah, I don't want to chat much more. I just want to get right into this. And this is just a giant of a guy, and I mean by that, the consciousness is very high, and I've been looking forward to not only meeting him here, but also to having him on the show. Medical anthropologist Alberto Velodo has studied the shamanic healing practice of the Amazon and the Andes for more than 25 years. He's the founder of the Four Winds Society, which trains modern shamans in the practice of energy medicine. He directs the Center for Energy Medicine in Chile, where he investigates and practices the neuroscience of enlightenment.
Now, in his mid-20s, Alberto was the youngest clinical professor at San Francisco State University. I mean, Lee, a professor.
In the mid-20s, yeah.
In his mid-20s.
Right.
My professors were not in their mid-20s
no, mine
when I was at university. Anyway, he directed the Biological Self-Regulation Lab to investigate how energy medicine, it changes the chemistry of the brain. And he had heard stories about people in remote parts of the Amazon who claimed to know such things. Recognising that this investigation would not be a part-time pursuit or even a brief sabbatical, Alberto resigned his post at the university and traded his lab coat for his hiking boots and a ticket to the rainforest, a man after my own heart.
Sounds like you.
Yes.
Scattered throughout the remnants of the ancient Inca Empire were a number of sages or earth keepers who practiced the ancient healing methods. Alberto visited countless villages, met with scores of medicine men and women. For more than 10 years, he trained with the jungle shamans. Along the way, he discovered that his journey had been guided by his personal desire to become whole. He learned to transform old pain, grief, anger, and shame into sources of strength and compassion. Alberto, you are in the right place at the right time for our audience. Thank you so much, my friend, for being here. I just want to turn this over to you and have you do whatever you'd like to for these next moments.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much, Monika, for having me here. And let me tell you a little bit about how I got to the Amazon, because I was at San Francisco State University and I had my own lab. And we were trying to see if we could create psychosomatic health. We knew we could create psychosomatic disease, but could you create psychosomatic health? And my lab was in the brain section in biology department. So I was surrounded by 200 brains in formaldehyde. And we were looking at the brain. What is the role does the brain part play in creating health? And I realized that I could not find that out in the laboratory, and particularly with Western science that had to kill it before you could study it, that we were slicing and dicing the brain and staining it and looking at pathways. And so I shut down my lab. I got a research grant, actually, from big pharma, big Swiss pharma. They wanted to discover the next breakthrough cancer cure or dementia cure, or heart disease cure. And the Amazon is nature's pharmacy. And as a medical anthropologist, I had the credentials for doing that. So I went into the Amazon, into backwater villages that had never seen a light-skinned person before. In fact, the kids would come running to me and they'd kind of rub my hands and arms to see if the white dirt would rub off. And after many, many months in the Amazon, I met my sponsors and I came back empty-handed. There was no herbs, no plants, and because these people had no heart disease, they had no Alzheimer's, they had no dementia, they had no cancer. These are the illnesses of the West. This is what we have created in Western society and civilization. But they knew how to prevent these conditions. And that really fascinated me, because today we don't know how to treat cancer or heart disease or cancer. We cut it, burn it, or kill it. It doesn't work. Alzheimer's, we spent over $1 billion in research to try to cure Alzheimer's, and the statistics are terrible. If you live to be 85 years old, and we will, all of us watching this will, you have a 50% risk of having diagnosable Alzheimer's. This doesn't mean forgetting where you left your car keys. It means forgetting your children's names. This is terrifying. But these Amazonian shamans knew how to prevent it. They practiced prevention, and they did that by working with the human energy field, with the aura, what we call the aura, which is in reality an information field that surrounds the physical body and organizes the physical body in the same way that a magnet organizes iron filings on a piece of glass. And in the West, we're fascinated with cutting the body and moving the pieces around, whereas the shamans were interested in clearing the imprints for disease from the energy field. And how I first learned about it was actually not in the Amazon, but in Haiti. Because the foundation that was sponsoring my research called me up and they said, Alberto, we're doing a study on voodoo in Haiti. And we need an anthropologist, a junior anthropologist. The other one got sick, and we're almost done with the study. And I said, I don't know anything about Haiti or about voodoo. My expertise is the Amazon. And they said, yes, we know. We're reviewing your grant proposal this very moment. And I said, when do you need me in Haiti? The following week, I was in Port-au-Prince in Haiti, where there was a lot of voodoo. And voodoo is actually an ancient healing practice from Africa, but that you can use to harm as well as to heal. In fact, all healing practices can be used, prayer can be used to kill someone or to heal someone. The difference, of course, is only the ethics and the intent of the practitioner. So I remember talking to this old voodoo priest, and I said, how do you hurt someone? How do you go and you punch them in the head? He said, nah, when we need to retaliate against someone, what we do is we take our rattle and we call on their spirit to come, and we look at their spirit, we look at their energy field, and we find out where the gray areas in the field are. And we go, maybe this is heart disease that runs in the family. And we put a little bit of energy into that imprint, and it wakes up. And it's like double clicking on a program in your computer. It takes over your screen. And 2 weeks later, that person will have heart disease. Or if you have breast cancer running in the family, they'll develop breast cancer. You'll activate the dormant deceased genes that we inherited from our family. And I go, wow, that is really nasty. And what about healing? How do you heal someone? And they said, it's the same way. We call on their spirit, we look at their field, and we find the stale chi, the stale energy. And we pull that energy out. We clear it from the blueprint. This is my language now. We clear it from the blueprint before it has to be processed through the body. And I go, wow, how elegant, how absolutely elegant. So here, these men and women that we consider primitive in Haiti and around the world, in sub-Saharan Africa, in the Himalayas, the Native Americans, they were working with a quantum field, what we call in physics the quantum field. They were interacting with it directly and upgrading the information that's in the blueprint of the body. And when you upgrade the blueprint, the body is upgraded. So they practice healing, not by healing disease. In fact, for the shamans, diseases do not exist. Sick people exist, but illnesses do not exist. And the practice of healing consists of creating the conditions for health. Create the conditions for health, and disease goes away. You don't need to treat illness, which is what we do in the West. In the West, in America and Europe, we don't have a healthcare system. We have a disease care system, and we treat illnesses. Shamans don't do that. They create the physical conditions for health, your nutrition, your diet, the supplements, the nutrients that you're missing. Depleted soils is a big problem today in the world. Emotional health, you have to clear the imprints for toxic emotions that we have in our field. That person that you haven't forgiven for 20 years, that's a toxic imprint in the energy field. That if you have a weakness, a genetic weakness, will manifest as an illness that runs in your family that we consider hereditary. In fact, the shamans consider toxic emotions, trauma, toxic emotions as the source of all physical maladies. You've got to heal the toxic emotions. You create the conditions for health spiritually. You've got to be on a spiritual path. It's essential. You've got to be in a sacred journey. not just to accumulate wealth or fame or fortune or heal your mommy or daddy issues. You've got to be in a sacred mission to bring a little more beauty to the planet, to be of service in some way. So this was the shamanic practice. And I said, that's so much healthier than what we do in the West, where we think that the illness is the problem. We treat the symptom. We don't treat the cause in the West. And whereas the shamans were treating the cause. And they were saying the cause is not only your diet, the cause is your energy field. It's your unhealed emotions. It's your early life trauma or what you bring with you from former lifetimes. And they knew not only how to describe it, they knew how to intervene directly to remove these toxic imprints. And they call this the illumination process. And this is what I teach my students today, is how do you illuminate your field, upgrade the quality of the energy field? How do you download version 2.0 of the human software? And you download it into the field that then goes about the process of healing the body as the first step to later growing a new body that ages differently and that heals differently and that dies differently and that perhaps doesn't even have to die. And this is occurring at a really fascinating time in history when the indigenous peoples from around the world, the native keepers of the prophecies, the earth keepers, say that we have come to the end of humanity, of the humanity that we have known until today. And that today a new human is being born in the earth at this time of climate crisis, of ecological crisis. Now, the interesting thing about these times of crisis is that evolution changes. Mother Nature doesn't work with Newtonian laws of evolution any longer, which are the normal laws, the customary laws, which are slow, incremental change. Mother Nature now takes a foot off of the brake and steps on the accelerator, and evolution begins to follow the laws of quantum physics, quantum leaping, so that evolution no longer happens in between generations with our children and their children. It happens within generations. With you and I, that we can take a quantum leap to become that new human. Now, I was trained in science originally, so I always bring it back to the laboratory. And I understood that every 7 years, we grow a new body anyway, that your skin cells die and are replaced every 5 or 6 days, that the lining in your gut every 3 days, your lung lining is every week, even your bones every 7 years, you change every molecule in your body. You get an entirely new body. And you can either get a new body that's a slightly more wrinkled and older version of the one you have now, or you can become the new human at this time, this critical time in the history of humanity and of the world. But we have to upgrade the quality of the information in the field. And then we have to do ceremony. We have to do ceremony because we need to change our minds. Now, I understood from studying brain science that the ancient brain, our most primitive Neanderthal brain, that's called the limbic brain that we all have. That's the brain that lives in scarcity. It lives in anger. It lives in fear. It has PTSD. It doesn't get enough of anything, enough love or enough money or enough time. This ancient brain only changes through ceremony. And that's why we have ceremonies in every culture in the world. So you need to create a sacred ceremony for yourself. One that comes from you, not repeating what someone else has done. So this brain needs a ceremony. We do a lot of fire ceremonies with candles, where you can blow into a stick or a piece of paper that which you are willing to let go of, and you put it in the fire. And that helps the brain to change so you can then change your mind. Otherwise, we're still stuck in the old paradigms and the old belief structures. We're not able to change them because they are operating actually as neural networks in this very ancient limbic brain that we all have. So this is a time of such amazing opportunity where we can bring together the ancient wisdom, the millenary wisdom of the shamans, the medicine men and women, and modern science, modern Western science. Modern science is descriptive, describes how things happen. The shamanic wisdom is participatory. It allows you to engage these processes. You don't only describe the quantum field, you're able to dance in it and change it and take on the creator role that we have to help to dream the world into being. So when I was in the Amazon, this old medicine woman comes to me and says, Alberto, we have to heal you. And I said, you have to heal me? Why? What's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with me. She said, no, we have to heal your ignorance. And I go, what do you mean heal your ignorance? And it's Dr. Alberto, by the way.
Yes.
What do you mean heal my ignorance? She says, yeah, you have a lot of information, but very little wisdom. And then she went on to explain that information is knowing that water is H2O. Wisdom is being able to make it rain. Information is having a diagnosis. Wisdom is being able to heal. In our Western science, it's very descriptive, but it doesn't let us engage and interact with the forces of nature. It doesn't, for example, one of the laws of physics is called the law of entropy. And entropy is a law that says that everything is breaking down. Your house is breaking down, your car is breaking down, your relationship can be breaking down. You've got to be repairing it all the time. This is that law that says that you can go from a glass of milk in the glass, to milk on the floor, but you can't go backwards. You can't go back to milk in the glass. So the shaman said, yeah, you don't need to go to Harvard to understand this. You just need to have children, right? Everything is moving towards chaos. So the shaman said, yeah, we observed that, but the other side of that law, and they said this law is what we call jaguar, the jaguar principle, like this ancient jaguar that I have here. Jaguar is the chaotic, destructive force. But the other side of that law, that's also jaguar, is that life defies entropy. The physical universe is going to hell all the time, and we need to keep repairing it. But the biological world seeks complexity. You have cells that team up with other cells to create organs, that team up with other organs to create eagles. It's extraordinary. Life seeks complexity, and that's the life principle. And we call that jaguar also, the life-death principle. And the difference being that the shamans can go, mother, sister, jaguar, come to me. Come and bring a little bit of renewal and healing to this person that I'm helping. Or come and bring life to this person that's so ready to be reborn. And they can enlist this force of nature. And jaguar will show up. Whereas the physicist can go, second law of thermodynamics, come to me, because nothing's going to come. It's only descriptive, whereas the shamans could not describe it, but they could do it. And one time I was saying to an old medicine man that became my teacher for many years, I was explaining to him chaos theory from physics. And chaos theory is that theory that butterfly that flapped its wings in Beijing started a tropical storm in the Caribbean. And which is a law that explains how we're all interconnected, chaos theory. And the old man turns to me and he says, show me. And I go, what do you mean show you? This is physics, quantum physics. He says, no, if you can talk about it, it's because you can do it, right? I had a brand new PhD, and he said, come on, flap your little doctor wings and heal somebody in India. And I said, I can't do that. He said, I can. Because these are feminine traditions. They're earth-based traditions. They're traditions of wisdom, not of information, not accumulating facts, but accumulating power so you can be of service and you can co-create. And this becomes the central tenet of the shamanic traditions, dreaming the world into being, co-creation. And it comes from our story of creation itself. Because in the West, we were kicked out of the Garden of Paradise, the Garden of Eden. And we're the only people in the planet ever to have been kicked out of the garden. Nobody else was kicked out of the garden. The Aborigines, the Native Americans, they were given the garden to be the stewards and the caretakers of the garden, the earth keepers. Whereas the shamanic mythology says, I've created, what Great Spirit said on the seventh day, I've created the whales and the eagles and the butterflies. Aren't they beautiful? And now you finish it. Creation is not complete. For us in the West, on the seventh day, all that was left was the naming of the plants and the animals. For the shamanic societies, the Aboriginal societies, creation is not complete. Our task is to complete creation. It's what the shamans call dreaming your world into being, to co-create with spirit. And this is the difference between the shamanic traditions and the religious traditions. Because religion is about the creator, whereas for the shamans it's about creation and creating. It's not making offerings to appease the creator or asking for this or forgiveness from. No, it's about knowing that spirit is within you. You're not separate from. And our task is to create and become stewards of the creation, become earth keepers. And to me, this is an ancient wisdom that is becoming so relevant today, so important.
Alberto,
in the world that we're living in.
I'm absolutely riveted because this is what we teach. And I'm just listening and going, yes, 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 I want to take notes, all these things. I don't want to run out of time. I know you have, did you want to do a little ceremony or something here to
Yeah, absolutely. I was hoping that we could do that we have time for that.
We do. We have 5 minutes left or maybe a little more, and we can do that, and then that we can end with that, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we can become earth keepers, we have to awaken the higher order neural networks in the brain. And we cannot do that if our brain is on fight or flight. If we are stressed out or we're fearful, we need to be able to practice stillness. This is what meditation is about, to reset that fight or flight system so that our world can become safe. And we're now no longer looking suspiciously at the world, but we can then step up to the higher order neural networks in the brain where we can become co-creators. So I'd like to take us through a meditation where we can begin to reset the fear system, the fight or flight system that produces the stress hormones in the brain. So it's a drumming meditation, and I'm going to ask you to inhale to a count of 4 and exhale to a count of 6. Inhaling to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, holding to 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, exhaling to 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, inhaling to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, holding to 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Exhaling to 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding Holding to 6. Exhaling to 6. Inhaling to 4. 3, 4. Holding to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhaling to 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding to 6. Exhaling to 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding to 6. Exhaling to 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding to 6. Exhaling to 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding to 6 softly. Exhaling to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling to 4. Holding to 6. Exhaling to 6. And deep breath. And exhale. Normally, we breathe between 12 and 15 times a minute. This is the stressful breath that creates psychosomatic disease. Now we were breathing 3 times a minute. And eventually you can inhale to 4, hold to 6, exhale to 6, and hold empty to 6. And then you'll be breathing twice a minute. And your whole system will slow down, your world will slow down, and you'll be able to dream your world into being with beauty and with grace. Thank you so much, Lee and Monika.
That's awesome.
That was incredible. Thank you for being part of our dreaming into being. If you enjoyed Alberto, please visit the4wins.com. That's the website, the4wins.com. You will find loads of information on that website, newsletters, free things, courses you can sign up for, and how blessed were we, Lee, to be able to have that.
It's really good.
Deepest love and thanks to you, Alberto.
I don't want to leave.
Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful work you do and blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so now we are going to take a 10-minute break. And then we'll see you for the Circle of 12. Well, hello and welcome back. Oh my goodness, wasn't Alberto wonderful?
I say this about so many of our guests, but yes, he was awesome. And I mentioned, I think when he was done, that I was riveted. Truly, you might have noticed that we really didn't have any questions for him. We didn't interrupt him, except the very, very end. And that is when it just gets your attention, because almost everything he was saying is truly so wise and so accurate for today.
Absolutely. So beautiful. And I hope you're still carrying that feeling from his drumming. And let's continue that as we prepare for the Circle of 12. Again, I would like us to begin by saying some statements of intent. I will say each intent 3 times, and you are invited to say them silently or aloud. I release all expectations, and I am willing to be open to the energy of compassion in my life. I release all expectations, and I am willing to be open to the energy of compassion in my life. I release all expectations, and I am willing to be open to the energy of compassion in my life. I accept the perfect love of God. I accept the perfect love of God. I accept the perfect love of God. And I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I am ready.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon. Come a little closer. Come a little closer is the new statement that I am making, and I have made. It's a statement that is one of invitation. And the closer is a metaphor for awareness, truly. If you can come closer to that which is on the other side of that veil, which has always separated you from what you think is reality and that which is perhaps divine, if you can come closer to that, you start to have things shown to you. You have an awareness, perhaps, that you hadn't had before. You're in a culture, almost all of you who would listen to this, where you are born with information being given to you by your families, by those adults around you, by your peers. It's the perception of how they feel Earth works. And it's not just that which is spiritual. It's that perhaps which is the way things work medically, or the way they work perceptionally, how to act, what to say, what to do when you have certain situations presented to you. And you learn them from birth, dear ones. And so by the time you are a young adult, you have a template that is before you. And that template, self-made by your culture, by those around you, by humans, for your culture, is often repeated. A template is something that is created so that the template becomes that which you are. That's why they call it a template. And so it's the template you would use in 5 years or in 10 years. It's always the template. And then there are some of you who take the template away. And when you do, you start asking the questions. In our channel, just a little while ago, I started talking to you about these perceptions, about the new frontier, which is a new human awareness. Could it be that the veil is lifting? Now that is a metaphor itself. And if you've just tuned into this and you're listening and say, well, what is the veil and what does that mean? The veil has always represented that which is beyond what you know, and especially spiritually. The veil would be that which is you, and the other side of the veil often is which is God. That's what you're taught. And when you go into those institutions, if you wish to call it that, and you sit and you listen, and you listen to those who would give you information from God, some of them will tell you about the veil. And they will say that that veil then separates you so completely, you'll never go there. And so you have to then compete with others to listen for this or that, or do certain things, or climb a number of stairs in order to peek over the veil, or peek through the veil, or you know what I'm saying, all of that. That's the template. But there are so many that have said, what if that information is as good as it got in an older consciousness, in an older energy of this planet? As good as it got because it still talks about a loving God. But that's all they had. And if you take a look at the traditions and the information, it's not just hundreds of years old, it's thousands of years old. It talks about a God on the other side of a veil or a wall that you'll never talk to and never get to. And that God is often a punishing God. Not anywhere close to that which we teach. And then there is the question, what if in a newer consciousness awareness time, what if in a time that allows for that veil to become thinner and lift a little, what if you can glimpse a truer, more accurate God perception, if you wish? The word itself, we said, God, is a holdover from an older idea, an older perception of a Father in the sky who controls things, looks at you, knows what you're doing, keeps track of your bad things and your good things, and then tallies it up when you die. Of course, so that you'll know how much to be punished. That is an old concept of what a God is in an older energy, and it emulates so accurately humanism. So God is human, just bigger and more powerful. What if, oh, we were so different. And that's the idea here, right now. This whole awakening, if you want to say, of consciousness that is slowly happening on the planet is in so many layers. It's not just spiritual, dear ones. It's how to treat each other. Even if you're not one who would ever become spiritual, you'd still be in on the lifting of this veil, the thinness of it, because the attributes of that creative source, the beautiful, benevolent, loving creative source, the attributes of that filters in to the field, into the humanity. And people who would never even go to church are starting to become kinder to each other or more understanding to one another. You see how this works? So we're not talking about a belief system. We're not talking about another way of thinking, spiritual, another thing to join. We are talking about an overall awakening, if you wish, perceptual increase, vibrational, anything you want to call it, which would mean an upgrade. An upgrade to consciousness, how you think about yourself. Consciousness, how you think about others, how you think about the earth, how you think about how you got here. How you think about what might work and what might not work in situations. Consciousness is increasing in its vibration. Kryon, what does that mean, it's increasing in its vibration? These are metaphors for a three-dimensional thinker who thinks that things that are higher are better, things that vibrate higher are better. It is a metaphor for thinking out of a lower energy into a new energy. Consciousness increase means you're starting to think more like that, which is from the creative source. That which is spirit. That is what you call God. What if, dear ones, there is a grander truth than you were told, and it's time for it to be revealed? The planet really is truly ready for a different perception of that which is the source that created all things. You had a speaker, a guest today, right before the break, who studied the indigenous of the planet, who spent time with them. In some of the oldest traditions on the planet, he was driven, truly, as a scientist, to see how it worked for them. And what he discovered was this: the things that the Western world is starting to become aware of have always been there. Now, this tells you something. Perhaps the way of things always existed in a greater way. So it's not about discovering something new about God. It's about returning to what was already known. What if the ancient ways you find are not that simple? What if they are every bit as complex as you would think a new way would be, with layers and layers of that which is energy and understanding? But what if it wasn't filled with rules? What if you discover that there is no veil, not as you thought there was? Honestly, what if there is no veil? That would mean that you are part of what is on the other side of the veil. And the invitation then is not to then go beyond that. The invitation is to realize that. So it becomes self-realization. Awareness, a perception that everything is connected, instead of everything being separated and you have to climb a certain stair in order to go to a certain place to meet that which is divine. What if the indigenous always had a grander truth? And that is what is now being refined, is now being seen, not just by the shamans, but by every woman and man who's listening to this program, if they wish. The question is there. What if things were bigger than any of you were told? What if that which you call God is not God at all, but part of a grandness that you are included in, instead of a separate thing, a separate entity? That is the bigger truth. Come with me. While we speak about going to the unknown from the known, and there is the bridge, and there it is again. Go to the middle of that bridge with me. Those of you who wish to will see beyond that mist that often is there, and those who are not sure will see a mist. That is a metaphor. Can you see beyond your own reality? Are you willing to understand there are things you don't know? Are you afraid of what you don't know? What have you been told? Every single one of these questions is answerable differently by your culture, by your upbringing, by what you were told. Regardless, we stand in the middle of the bridge, and I want you to go across with me. Right now, come closer. Come closer, please. Take my hand, take everyone else's hand, and let's go. You go into an energy that for some is frightening because you haven't been there before. And for some, you've waited all week for it because this is where you want to go. But the more times you go to this energy, the more you realize it's a safe place because it is the essence of you. Have you realized how old this place is? It's not new. You have crossed the bridge into an ancient part of you. And in there's everything. There is creation. There is past lives. There's who you were, who you will potentially be. Where there is no beginning and there is no end. Where all things seem to be in a circle of 12. And we've explained this before. Understanding, benevolence, compassion, no judgment is there. You might just bask in that energy for a moment before we go into the theater. Through a doorway or a portal, which is only a metaphor of going from one place to another for you, you move into this place, this theater in the round that we always go to. The theater in the round is sometimes large, sometimes small. It's always a sunken theater with an amphitheater kind of seating around it. You have to go down into the audience in order to get onto the stage. That is what it always looks like. There is a chair on the stage or not, depending upon what we are doing today. Today there is a chair. The chair is for you. The chair is metaphoric. It's always symbolic. Everything is, dear ones. And if you want to analyze it, we say to you, the chair is a comfortable place, a safe place where you can watch or you teach in the chair. It's not imposing where you stand in front of an audience and then have to deliver something. It's a chair. And I want you to go there and sit there if you choose in this exercise. People say, I'm having a hard time visualizing. And I say, are you having a hard time remembering what it's like to sit in a chair? And probably not. So simplify all of it, dear ones. Sit in the chair. Only this time, when you open your eyes, there is indeed a very large audience in front of you. It's all around you. Now there's a symbol of the circle that is all around you as well. There is no beginning or end of that circle. In this metaphoric, symbolic place, everyone can see your face, even in the circle in the round, because this is not a linear circle. Some have asked, well, describe the circle. Kryon, give us something a scientist would understand about the beauty of the circle of 12 you always talk about and the numbers you always talk. Okay, I'll tell you what the circle is for the first time. It's a toroid. Now, I hope that satisfies a little more of those who are scientific, because you'll go, oh my. Study the attributes of a toroid. That attribute, by the way, of a toroid, someday will give you some of the energy that you're missing today. You are sitting in a magnificent place, dear ones. And here's what's going to happen. We've gone here before, and this is similar. But a light will be shown individually on groups. We've done that before. All of those in the audience are at least 800 years old. All of them in the audience are indigenous for their territory in their area, all of them. And they see you. And they want to talk to you in groups. They want to stand and give you the summary of what they believe. And they're doing this for a reason, because you are seen as the link to the future wisdom of the planet. Whereas there are very few who would go that far back to listen to those who have lived then. The new human is the link to the future, because this begins the study of what the shamans knew about the other side of the veil, about the light at the end of this tunnel that some of you have created, saying that life ends at the end, and it does not. And they believe in so many of the things today you call New Age, which is not. It's old age, past lives, energies, healing, miracles. Where energy is king and consciousness is all, where the planet is connected to everyone and everything and is a partner in your life. One by one, this group is going to stand, speak as one, and one voice and one consciousness to you as you listen. And they will say, here's what we believe. And they will tell you what we have been training you in now for 31 years. They'll tell you how connected you are to all things. They'll tell you that God is love and benevolence and represents nature and is not a judging God, that you are part of everything. They won't refer to it as God, they'll call it spirit, so many of them, meaning consciousness, and you are in it, one by one. And before they ever talk to you, they will give a little ceremony that welcomes you into their fold, and they will see you as a link, and that's why you're sitting there. Can you feel it now? The honor that the indigenous of the past have for you today, because you're listening, finally, to the truth that is so much bigger than anything your culture has ever given you. I want you to stay there, one by one, and watch these as they go around, calling you by name, saying thank you for being here, thank you for listening, thank you for understanding. You're one of us. Dear ones, this is the awareness frontier of the planet starting to occur, one at a time, so often by those who would listen to a program like this. I am Kryon, in love with humanity. Stay and be honored, O link that you are. Warrior of a light, we call you, unafraid. Stay. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. And so the time between when I last spoke to you and now doesn't even exist for me. It is so difficult to explain to a linear human being what it is like not to have a clock. That all things occur at once. It's an odd thing to talk about, for your future to you is not known, and your past cannot be revisited. And so to you, you are always in the present. We are too. But we call it the now. And we include the past for their only energies. And although the actions in 3D cannot be changed, the memories of them can. The influences of them can. They can be rewritten in your DNA. It is part of the now. It changes you now. So something you do about your past changes the now. So what have you done, really? You visited the past. The future, you say, is not known to you, it is not known to us, and yet the potentials of what you might do are. As you change your mind now in a certain way, you change the potentials, therefore rewriting the future. That is our now. We see it all one. It helps us to give you the kind of channel we're going to give you. We're going to call the channel the three winds. Much of this information has been given in pieces and parts over many years. You've heard some of the terminology alluded to. And now we wish to just lay it out as a carpet that will contain a lot of answers, perhaps some controversies because they don't agree with things that you might have heard in the past from others. And this is where the discernment is yours and always has been. To see if the things make sense that I'm going to tell you and use what we have called spiritual logic. First of all, the human being and the human being's soul we'll see as one. And the actual truth is that you are in four places in this carpet of time. The three winds are three of the four, and the other place is home. That's where I am. And we don't call it a wind, because there is no wind when you're home. There is no action for or against. There's nothing pushing and pulling. It is so difficult, if not impossible, to describe to you something that is so close to you but so hidden. The peace of God in you and what it is like to be on this side of the veil will remain hidden. It has to. For the test of energy that you are about as a human being must remain in a certain reality and consciousness for you to perform the test. But there's no wind when you're home. You're a piece of the soup of God, which is measured in unnumberable parts, and yet all is one. The very essence of entanglement represents God, where there can be many, but they all move as one. When you are in touch with your higher self, you are in touch with the one. Sometimes humans think that they'll get messages from angels, and the angels are giving messages from other angels, and so on and so forth. They'll see a hierarchy in heaven. There's no such thing. For the wisdom of God is the wisdom that is a singular wisdom. It is always the same wisdom. The truth is the truth. And because you have a piece of God in you, you become aware of the truth all at once. And this is why you can take an awakening human being in another part of the world that is foreign to you, speaking another language which is foreign to you, and if you ask them about certain things, they'll give you the same things you believe, because it's coming right out of the same place. So honor your intuition as we go, that part of your mind which discerns as we go. And some of you may actually see what we speak of, the three winds. Human being, there's nothing more honored than the three winds. They represent the three states that humans are in. Two of them are brief, and one of them is long. There is the wind of birth, there is the wind of existence, and there's the wind of transition. In your words, you would say birth, life, and death. We don't use those words. The wind of birth is different than just birth. For birth to you is the actual physical event. The wind of birth is you right before you enter. In each of these cases, we're going to start with dismissing the fallacies and giving you the rules, the truth. So let us discuss as much as we can and start with the wind of birth. You're ready to go back to the planet. What is involved? What energies have spun around it that get you to this place? Who is able to be in the wind of birth? These things are difficult to describe, for they're not linear. But you are aware of only linear things. So we're talking about coming back, are we not, after perhaps a lifetime you'd lived before. So you would expect in the wind of birth you were about to reconnect as a human being into the planet in a certain way. So what are the rules of this as you connect again to humanity? Well, let me tell you what they're not. The first thing you should know is that the human being is unique. On this planet, coming and going, humans all are the same. They all have a higher self, every single one. The structure of the DNA and the potentials within are identical. And the only thing that differentiates one from another in the DNA would be the Akashic record. But the Akashic record holds within it the ability and potential for enormous energy, depending upon what you have done in past lives. If you have awakened to spiritual potential, there is more energy than if you have not. Therefore, the creation of an enlightened old soul is literally available at the wind of birth. For it's what you've done before, who you were, what you accomplished, if you awakened earlier, if you're working the light puzzle or not. So the Akashic record is not just a record of how many times you've been here, but how much spiritual knowledge you've awakened to. For in that library that I spoke of before, that you pick up and hold through your life and into the next, will help you to know what the next life is going to be like. Because of the axiom we've given you before that says you will never have to relearn anything. That once you open the door, it is all available, all lifetimes, all learning. Therefore, what I'm about to tell you is this: the human being is a piece of God. Unique. It is not an animal. Animals have their own kinds of energies, even some of them their own kinds of soul groups. Animals exist for several reasons, and we've told you before. All of them as part of the balance of Gaia and also as friends of humans. They hold the energy. Sometimes they love. They incarnate within their own groups many times. Their own soul groups coming back as animals. Many times as other animals. But listen to this. Never do they cross the barrier into a higher self being. Animals are not what you used to be graduating to humans. But it is very easy for humans to think that, because this is the way school works. This is the way linear things work. You graduate into higher levels and you become better. Therefore, those who would look at the scheme of life would say, you start as animals and you become human, and you don't. The human being has the beautiful higher self. It's the core soul of God. And how much of that you can accept and open the door to see it while you're alive is how enlightened you become. There is immense planning to put you at the wind of birth. What did you accomplish last time, if anything? Who were you and what did you do? What energies did you start that were not complete? What soul group were you in? Who were your parents? Are you in agreements to become their grandchildren, your grandchildren? There are so many things that go into the planning, and each life path is different. It is unique. And humans don't like the fact that there is no instruction manual that says, here's what happens. Because humanity is honored way above that. Let me tell you something that happens that I've not discussed before in this way. There are certain attributes that humans get after they're here, and we'll call them creative attributes, that are actually almost quantum, that take several lifetimes to complete. And so what happens to the creatives is that they will go through a series of numbers of lifetimes as though it were one in order to have completion. Famous artists will come back. The first thing they want to do is pick up a brush and continue, and they do. Famous composers, famous poets, sculptors. And they come back and keep going. Some of the masters of the old. And you play this classic music and you say, why they don't make them like that anymore? You're wrong, they're here again. And so the creatives and the energy that they set up is different from the others. And so at the wind of birth, you stand there as a completely and totally unique creature, ready to come back in the planet. You don't arrive with a blank slate. You have to know that. The only ones who arrive as a completely blank slate are the newbies. And we'll talk about that in the next wind. But this is a room of old souls. There are those who can read your Akash, and they won't be reading every lifetime. They'll be the ones that stick out, the ones that have a profundity about them, where you accomplished things, or perhaps worse, you didn't. Or dramatic things happen. It's all based on energy potentials. You'll hear that again. You're about to come back. And laying upon you are all these potentials and possibilities. You're coming back as part of the family. Where you will be, the gender that you will be, and the place you will be within that place is all part of the planning. The most difficult thing for me to describe to you is the planning. For this particular planning is not linear. It's not something that you would see on a spreadsheet. It's energy-based. And it's based into family. If you have awakened, there is potential there that is not there if you have not. And so an old soul will go to another place perhaps that a young soul would not. All in the wind of birth. And you're ready for it. And we've talked about that moment before, right before you come into the planet. The old soul especially the old soul in the new energy, is completely different at the wind of birth. The old soul who has awakened over and over and is coming back with that library filled with spiritual purpose is comfortable with the process. Remembers very fully what they've been through. The old soul is not going to be subject to some of the energies that push and pull a younger soul. The old soul has made up his or her mind. As part of the planning what they were going to do, the old soul may even have known it before they left. This is the difference. We've told you in previous channels some of the interesting differences between new humans and ones like you. We told you that the DNA changes that you have provided through your enlightenment and knowledge is going to bring a child forward the next time you arrive who remembers how to read, who doesn't have to be taught everything, who can walk earlier and talk earlier because they remember it, because the bridge in their DNA is starting to be complete between what was and what is. Therefore, the human being to be born is not one with a clean slate that has to know absolutely everything from scratch, but comes in with a full load. And as their brain develops, they then remember who they are. This is the promise of the new energy. Especially after 2013, you're going to see some changes in your children as they come in. The encumbrance of a planet that was going to be destroyed will not be among them. The promise of a planet going into new, uncharted areas of quantum energy and discovery will be upon them. And they'll need a whole new set of tools. All this to say, watch for this. All at the wind of birth. They're ready to come in. Oh, you've all participated in it. Everyone in the room has participated in this. There is no newbie here. Not all of you are old soul, that is to say, have been hundreds of times, but all of you have been here before. It makes it interesting, does it not? For the absorption of this knowledge is different between you. Very different. Some will sleep through it. Others will be awakened by it. We arrive now at the wind of existence, and that you call life. Let us give you the rules. First, the things that it is not. No matter what you have been told on this planet, you are not here as punishment. You're not here to be tested. We call this a test. It's a test of energy that Gaia then measures and passes to the very fabric of the great central sun. It's a measurement of the earth. The test is whether humans can change that measurement. That's the test. Humans are not here to be tested. You're here as family. The bridge between the wind of birth and the wind of existence is where you remove everything you know about the truth. You're no longer aware that you are a piece of the universe of God itself, where you came from, or what you've been through. You awaken to potentials of remembering these things if you've learned them, or learning them for the first time if you haven't done it before. Old souls don't necessarily awaken at all. Sometimes an old soul who has had a very difficult and profound lifetime previous will skate through this life as a vacation and never wake up. But you know they're old souls when you meet them. And you can see it in their eyes. Some of you have even married them. And they may not be here at a meeting like this, but it's the very thing that attracted you. And that is why we say there are no rules that say you have to be here, that you have to awaken, that you have to help the planet, that you have to send light. There are no have-tos, dear ones, because it's complex with variety. And this time around, some are simply here to hold the energy of who they are. And next time around, they'll do the work. And some of you have had these attributes, and it's necessary. It's like a time of recalibration. And some of you would say, well, it's a waste of 80 years or more. It is not. Any more than it's a waste of 3 weeks when you go on vacation. It's complex. It's all about timing what you do here during the wind of existence. Who are you? How many times have you been? Will depend upon what you go through. This has nothing to do with spiritual accounting. It doesn't have anything to do with punishment or reward. It has to do with learning. The ones who have been here most often will know better what to do about the conditions they find when they arrive. You put it into 3 categories: new, learning, and old. The newbies who show up as they have to because the planet expands in population, you can know they're newbies in a minute because you say A and they say B. You'll ask them to go left and they'll walk right. They have no idea about anything, and it shows. They don't know how life works, and you slap your head because you can't believe anybody could be that way. They're new. They don't know about human nature, about human consciousness. They're the ones who can be tricked so easily by a human being who wants to trick them. Naive to the max in all directions. And you've seen them. And they're going to have to come back a number of times before they start understanding the whole process of how life works. So there's always a number of them. And they're not about to be in a meeting like this. They're better off in a meeting that would be how humans work. Some of them wind up on the psychologist's couch to discover how humans work. This sometimes will take them into poverty because they have no idea what to do from one place to another, and they make mistakes. You see them as naive and foolish. They are. And by the way, so were you. You get to a certain state where you come into the planet and you are aware of how things work, and then you become a learner. What else is there? These are the ones who are the potential awakeners. Well, these are the ones who have the potential to come to a place like this, hear the truth, recognize it or not. And if it's a or not, it just means it isn't time yet. Timing is everything. My partner asks many times, he said, why did I have to awaken to the truth in the middle of my 40s? It would have been so much more fun when I was 30, he said. And I have told him it's about timing. It's about placing him at the age he needs to be to do what he does now, and also what he's going to do next. I'll get to that. And so, dear ones, in these 3 categories, most of the ones who sit in the chair are in the 3rd category, and that is old soul. The ones who have awakened and are sitting, waiting for the instructions on what to do next. For they know their life's path. They know why they're here. They know the earth needs them. And each path is different. And so they're sitting in this one, in this room now. This is the way it works, old soul. For some of you have awakened many times, and your library is thick with spiritual purpose, and some of you have just awakened, a few of you, this lifetime, but you're an old soul. Now this may be complex, but you also have a library of the Akash, and that is to say, what is there that is truth that you can pull from, that perhaps you didn't live personally, but it's there anyway? Now this is very difficult, but now I broach a subject that I have not broached in this fashion before, so listen carefully. If it is true, dear human being, that you were seeded by an ascended race, that means that they are in your DNA. Everything that they know is in your DNA. You know where I'm going, don't you? That means that you can awaken to great amounts of truth that you never lived through because it's there from what they gave you. It goes beyond your Akash into a spiritual quantum Akash that belongs to those who seeded you. And you start to pick up the truth of the universe, of the galaxy, of existence of God, way beyond your years. This is a new energy attribute that we wanted to give you this day. The learner, the second attribute of timing, is guided often by an old energy called karma. So let us make it straight what it is. Karma is unfinished business from one lifetime to another. It pushes and pulls you into areas, and it has nothing to do with predestination. It has everything to do with predisposition. If you have a lot of karma, you're predisposed then to move left or right when certain conditions happen based upon the energy you came in with that pushes you there. We gave you information back in 1993 when Kryon Book 1 was published that the old soul, the one reading the book, has the permission to drop their karma completely and take the tiller of their own energy and steer it into an enlightened earth. And we continue to say that and let you know that karma is an old system of learning and you're beyond it. It's needed, it's still there for the learners. By the way, karma is not even available to the newbie. The new one coming in has no energy to pull from. That's why they're clueless. But the second, third, and fourth time around, they start gleaning the energy that they produced as a clueless human. And then it pushes them and pulls them into other places, and that is karmic. They then come in with karmic family. They come in with karmic groups. You don't have to. Once you drop karma, you have severed that energy completely, and it means the next time around, dear human being, dear old soul, you can call your own shot. And what we mean by that is you can plan today for what you're going to do the next time around. But I will warn you, don't plan it in 3D. You plan it with the love of the higher self together. Some of you have had those sessions already, and you know what you're going to do, clearly. Some of you know where you're going to be, clearly. This is part of the new energy that speaks to you clearly. I want to talk about contracts because this is misunderstood. Some of you will come in and say, I am here doing what I'm supposed to do in this city because it is my contract. And another human being will come along, perhaps with a better offer. Perhaps it's romantic. Perhaps it's spiritual. And part of you pulls in that direction and says, should I or shouldn't I? And you bolster yourself up and you say, my contract is to stay here and do this, and I will give you a word that you should remember. Nonsense. Your contract is in invisible ink. And every single day of an old soul's life, it is rewritable. Did you know that? The only contract you have, old soul, is to be here, and it's been fulfilled. Now pick up the pen and write it every day. And if synchronicity comes along and sweeps you into another area, view it for what it is, what you asked for. Feel it as it occurs. Is it true? Is it not? Should it be? Should it not? And go with your intuitive feeling. And write it in the ink that is invisible, that will disappear tomorrow as you rewrite it into something even better. A contract is not something that you have today that is linear, that you have to go through. And so when you use the word, use it properly and understand it. It's day by day. Old soul, right now, you've never had an opportunity in this new energy to change the wind of existence like now. In these next few years, you'll decide collectively on this planet a number of things. Through very slow attrition of the old energy dying out, you will gain the upper hand. There will be greater integrity. Old souls will create it. The very plan of what the earth is about will start to shape up. Eventually, someone will come up with the idea of an alliance of nations and promises of help for one another. I've said it before. There'll be future generations that look back on everything that was 2012 and backwards as being the barbaric era. And you will see civilization as you know it started in 2013. That is the promise of this demarcation point. The wind of existence is you working the puzzle, old soul. And you're not in karma, and you're not in contract. You're in manifestation mode. And it may not seem like it, but give it a chance. And we've said this before, when you start getting out of survival mode and worrying about every single thing, you'll start to get into manifestation mode. The worry mode is what your parents taught you, and you know it. You can hear your mother and your father speaking in your mind as you worry about the things you worry about. You inherited it. It's not what enlightened beings do. They manifest what they need. They don't worry about what they don't have, for it comes to them when they need it. And the example has been clear, and we've given it to you a number of times with the Israelis in the desert. Those Israelites for 40 years had everything they needed provided as they walked in a circle. And they worried every day. Take the example of what they had there, not what they did with it. And the last wind. The wind of transition you call death. What can I tell you about this that you don't already know? I think I can tell you a lot. First of all, the rules. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know when it's going to happen. We need to keep some of you here a very long time because you're not done with what you started. Others of you, we need to have transition soon. By the way, we have no clock, so don't read anything into soon. Sooner than later. For the same reason, we need you at a place when you're young. We need you to keep developing what you're developing now because you'll awaken to it and you'll have youth. We need you to be a certain age to run for office, to take an enlightened state right into the parliament. We need to have you young for certain reasons that should be very obvious to you as you think about it from our standpoint. Old soul. And so you don't know. Cast away the fear of you don't know. To understand that these things have the reasons that are profound and you helped plan them. The very awakening process helps to decide when you're going to transfer the energy. Oh. I want to give you an attribute you hadn't really thought of. Death is fearful. In the corporeal sense, you can see it on earth, that everything survives. The last thing anything wants, even a bacteria, is to die. Survival then pushes you to life, and nobody simply walks into death without fear. And that will remain that way. And it should be that way. But there is a gift for you that we give you, and you don't even know about it. And I'll tell you what it is. At the moment of transition, when the heart stops and the last breath is exhausted, that you will breathe, and another one does not come, and we know that the transition is happening, we're there. Oh, we're there. And all the angels of the great central sun are there. And they kindle a light that puts you in peace so that fear cannot exist. And in a fraction of a second, you know it's okay. You might call it a spiritual anesthetic. We call it the gift of heaven. So that the wind of transition from a quantum standpoint is beautiful. That you don't go from that fear for that instant when you realize you're not going to take another breath. It's only for a second. And then it's gone. And you're moved into the process of a 3-day remembrance of who you are. Part of you remains here. Part of you is with us. And all of it is beautiful. Some humans have gone through a near-death experience and explained it the best they could, and they came back different. Oh, a human being, they saw a piece of it. They saw a wing of the one angel. And when they came back, they said, "You won't believe it. I was dead for a moment, and I couldn't believe it. It was beautiful. I heard singing," they said. Ask them. And they'll tell you. And that is our gift. And we've never talked about it before. The gift during the transition. There is no sting in death, human being. The only sting is for the ones who remain. and don't know where you are. I'll tell you where you are. You're out of 3D, but you can see them. Everyone you loved and lost, dear one, is still here. The crystalline grid contains their memory. Some of them move into your guides. The parents you've loved and lost will be with you till your last breath in certain ways, holding your hand. This is complex. Human beings, you ought to know that your soul group can be in several places at the same time. We've given you that information before. They can be reincarnate into another human soul and also be with you as a guide. Don't ask the question, how? Because only in 3D can you even imagine these things, and they don't explain how. It's a beautiful system. Death has no sting. If you lose somebody you love, I want you to remember this. They may appear still and cold and gone forever. That's just in 3D. That's not the truth. Alive and well and looking at you, pleading you, with you, to see the energy of love that they represent. Not gone. Those are the 3 wins for today. I love to talk about these things, for they are near to me. I work with all 3. I'm working with them right now. The energy which is Kryon is a group, just like all of you are. And the part of the group right now which is consoling those at the wind of birth that it's going to be okay. And welcoming those in the transition that know it's okay. And working with those in existence who are not really sure. This is the role of spirit through the higher self that is yours. Discovery of God inside. The plan is beautiful, dear ones. And so it is.